Sorry not sorry, sorry not Justin Timberlake, write me a river. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my head, and I felt like it's not you, it's me instead. Hey, I wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna lead a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. Shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a... Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. Yeah, lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to.
Yes, greetings, global greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. It's a pleasure to be here with you on another Tuesday evening. Good evening, Oli. Good evening, Layamiga. Good evening, the entire Eastern Caribbean. And good afternoon, good morning, good night, depending on where you are geographically. Some one of these greetings may be applicable to you. So we're here this evening with another exciting edition of the Topics with my co-host Bankie Shabazz King and our special guest for this evening, Jaedee Caines. So we are up to a very exciting and informative discussion as we learn a little bit more about Jaedee Caines and some of what she plans to do for Nevis and let's say St. Kitts and Nevis and by extension even the entire Eastern Caribbean. So people, we are off to another interesting edition. I want to say good evening to you once more. Bankie, greetings.
Greetings, Yahsonn, and greetings to our guest, Jaedee. How you doing? Yeah, man, definitely tonight we're full of energy. You know what I mean? Very happy to have Jaedee in our presence. So let me say good evening to the folks here in Oli, Layamiga, which is the indigenous name for both St. Kitts and Nevis if you're a first-time listener. The Topics, I mean, all is welcome. It doesn't matter whichever side you're on. We are a community show, so we don't really hold side. We give everybody the platform to host themselves and just talk to the public and let them know what their plans is and stuff like that. So greatly appreciate you folks tuning in, especially the folks in the neighboring islands, Sabre, Statia, St. Martin, US Virgin Islands, and the BVI, and not forgetting the folks over in Montserrat and Antigua and Barbuda. Also the folks in the diaspora, North America, from the Florida, straight up to Maine, friends over in Tennessee, Atlanta, New York, Boston, wherever you're at in the whole of the US, and also the folks over in Europe, either different time zones. So we greatly appreciate you guys staying up late, and also in Africa, Asia, wherever you're at, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, whichever is appropriate. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in, because you're the one who make this show possible. We could be here talking and you could be still listening in any media house. So you choose listen to the Topics and Real Entertainment Network. And also remember to share, subscribe, and just let everybody know the topic is on, and our guest is a beautiful young lady, Jaedee Caines. So definitely looking forward for this interview. So definitely, Yahsonn, this tonight is going to be one of my favorite show. Obviously, I guess I'm being biased.
It's
But along with that. So
always good to
definitely
have
looking forward for the reasoning, and remember the show is interactive. It's not just about Yahsonn and myself speaking. It's about you all engaging with the guests. Just be respectful as usual, and just we have some fun. Yahsonn, Jaedee, welcome to Real Entertainment Network and the Topiks.
Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen.
I was saying it's always good to have that female energy as well, you know?
Yeah, man.
So to have that feminine energy in between, and so we always welcome the feminine energy to the platform. JD, you know, it's really nice to have you here. Jaedee Caines serves as the Nevis Reformation Party representative and caretaker candidate for Constituency 1, St. Paul's. A well-known community activist on Nevis, Caines was formally nominated and launched as the NRP candidate for St. Paul's, Charlestown in 2021 at a ceremony in the Villa grounds. She positions herself as a public figure focused on community development and has actively engaged constituents through events led by NRP St. Paul's Group. Caines has called for governmental change, accusing ministers of misconduct, as highlighted in her 2025 campaign statements. Her role involves staying connected with St. Paul's residents via constituency outreach. Jaedee is also very much known in the media field as a media personnel, journalist. So, you know, we are here with, you know, a professional in that field as well. So we definitely look forward to an engaging discussion. So Jaedee, what we do generally, we try to at least give a little bit of information on our guests, and so at least we could share a little bit, because sometimes when you do ask people to talk about themselves, they sometimes, you know, shy back a little bit and don't want to, you know, toot their own horn and so on. So sometimes we like to do that at least. So we know we're going to give you that opportunity now to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you, and also if there was anything that we needed to correct in the intro or the bio, the short bio, then we can do that as well. So thank you, welcome, and good evening. The floor is yours.
Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you so much for having me. First off, allow me to commend you guys for providing this platform, a different platform, so that persons can hear their views and so that persons can hear things from a different standpoint. Growing up in an age where journalism and media and communication on a whole continues to evolve, I welcome initiatives such as these. So I consider you guys citizen journalists. You're the ordinary man, the ordinary person, but you're interested in what is happening around us. And so hence you're a citizen, but you're a journalist. So I welcome that. Yes, what you said about me.
That's a big thing coming from you. That's a big thing coming from a journalist.
Journalist, yes.
So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I listened to the intro and I smiled, but because it is a field that I am familiar with, I like to see what is out there on me in terms of the World Wide Web. And so I smiled when I heard Yahsonn's introduction, because I'm like, okay, I've seen this, I've read this, you know. So no objections there. On a more personal side, I am a mother. I have a 12-year-old, and I absolutely love the joys of motherhood. I love being a parent. I think it's exciting. You know, it has its challenges, but I really love that. I'm a godmother to many, too numerous to mention at this point. And I am generally just a fun-loving person, someone who, even before entering elective politics, has always been well known in the community. Because, you know, apart from Nevis being a small island, because of the field that I was trained in, you get the opportunity for persons to see you and hear you often. So I consider myself well known. I've been involved in Culturama for a number of years, which is the main festival on the island, as a contestant, as a coach, as a committee chairperson. I did that a few years back. And so those are some of the things I like to get involved in. And I like to tell people that being involved in elective politics is no different for me personally as my everyday life. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because if you're accustomed to serving, if you're accustomed to being involved in the community, then there shouldn't really be too many changes that you have to think about. So that, in a nutshell, is who I am. I also have parents who are well known as well. So even if I didn't want to be well known, by virtue of who I'm related to, I think that goes without saying. So that, in a nutshell, is who I am. And I guess as we talk some more, maybe some other things may come out.
All right. And that little bit that you added, Jaedee, people who know you would know that, this is really and truly Jaedee. A lot of, and I'm sure when you say God children, some are actually God children and some are not necessarily God children, but
that is true. That is so true.
Right. So and this is what people would know about Jaedee in terms of, always being out in the community, always, doing something, whether it's with the schools, whether it's with the children. So I like the way you would have put it, that you generally always serve the community. So it's not like something that you have to add to know that you're putting yourself in that position to serve on a higher level. So yes, definitely I could attest to that. Bankie, I'm going to let you roll off. And if there's anything that you would want to ask Jaedee up front, and then we could start rolling. I am going to take a minute to do my little rounds in terms of trying to share a couple of links. And so I'm going to give you that opportunity to start the ball rolling.
Well, Jaedee, it wouldn't know, but Jaedee is unique for me, because my uncle Flakes grew up around her grandma, Aunt Mai.
Yes.
So Flakes was always very close with Sherry and Jean. So it's like I'm all around Flakes. So it's like they know me too, in a sense like that. See what I mean? So Jaedee is like is family. You know what I'm saying? So I like seeing her grow up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And mature into a beautiful woman and know her mom and stuff like that. So I admire that and stuff like that. So just letting her know publicly for a tell her in person. But so that's why I said this interview gonna be one of my favorite, because history as a youth growing up and being around her mom and her aunties and stuff like that, because her grandma like adopted my uncle Flakes, who were close by, like me and Mansa and so forth. But definitely Jaedee, so just got to put in that, you know what I mean, so they understand how way back me I go.
Yes.
Yeah, man, but welcome again. But definitely, I mean, yes, you had entered into politics. No one know you're known for the Queen shows and on stage as a host and stuff like that. But so how is it? What and this side now you're a candidate, you're a representative for NRP in St. Paul's in the town area, which I'm from and stuff like that. And you're well respected in that area. I mean, you're just a down-to-earth person, always full of energy and just love being yourself. And then you don't butter up. I mean, we basically have the same personality, more or less. You know what I mean? Blunt, straightforward. And I love that about you. Many don't like people in that kind of way. We live in a society kind of conservative. So when you're outspoken, then when they leave, they're going to say, you're right. And they're with you. But they don't, they wish they have that energy to be as bold, but they're not and stuff. But people just need to be themselves, and I admire people like that and admire that in you. You know what I'm saying? Living in a community, in a small community like that, we are very judgmental and they don't like people who are outspoken. So it's a beautiful thing and in a good way to raise your children and stuff like that. You understand? You can be shy, but you can still be respectful and be outspoken, and nobody got to know you're shy. So how is it as a representative when on an everyday basis and dealing within your community and seeing some of the pressures that people is really under, because you know how it is living in a small community where, and right now, I mean, so how is it serving the people and how was the experience going?
Okay, thank you so much for that. That is a very pointed question. You see, for me, it is a balancing act. And I'll tell you why I say that. We have to deal with what people like about you and what you bring to the table and what you feel like you can use to enhance where we are as a society. And you also have to deal with the expectations of not just the party, but others who were before you. So it is a balancing act, and I welcome both angles. And so for me, like you said, I'm very outspoken. I try my best to be respectful of people and their views. You could have a difference of opinion. As long as you're respectful, I respect you, and we could talk about anything. So I try my best to do that. However, sometimes it's not reciprocal, meaning whereas I may be open and willing to hear from you, sometimes people have that wall, maybe because I'm affiliated with a party that they don't support, or maybe because they do not like some of the ideas that you bring, or maybe because you're not the candidate who was there before. There are a lot of different reasons. And so one of the bigger challenges at the start was to break through that. But I must say, even in things like house visits, which I try to do on a regular basis, the reception has been very good. I haven't had anybody to my face say things like, oh, don't come in here, or I don't want to talk to you. I haven't had that. I've had some persons who are a little bit more forceful than others in terms of getting their point across, but that's fine with me too. But I haven't had that sense of it. I try to listen a lot, even though I have my ideas and I have my plans. I try to listen because for me, the reason that we have an administration that has been in office consecutively for 12 years, going on January would make 13 years. So consecutively for 12 years, had a pause of about 7 or so years, but then was in government consecutively for another about 14 years. It means that it is something that a lot of people either like or have grown accustomed to. So it has been a very humbling experience, accepting that even though I personally may see so many things wrong with what's happening in Nevis, that may not be some other people's reality, because that is all they are accustomed to. So as long as I respect that people may have that view, and then I give them an opportunity to share why they have that view, and they then give me an opportunity to share mine, then I realize that there's a bit of a breakthrough and I can reach people. Now, I do have persons who, even on our side, sometimes would call me out and say, I'm a little bit too free-spirited, and, sometimes people don't like that. And that's okay. You get the good and the bad, but then there are others who like that about me, and so I welcome the good and the bad. In terms of serving people and realizing where people are, a lot of it is not new to me, to be honest, because even though people look at me and say, okay, she works in a financial institution, she's college educated and all of that, what a lot of people fail to remember is that I had to work from scratch. I had to start from scratch. I didn't have any rich godfather or godmother who laid that. What I had was parents and grandparents who were adamant that I will be educated. But in terms of finding the resources to do things, it's me, and me. And so I know what it is like to struggle. I know what it is like when you have to choose between buying something to eat and paying a bill. So my reality is very similar to a lot of people's reality. It's just that I have a certain drive, a certain push, and a certain level of support behind me that helps to propel me forward. When I go into people's homes and meet people in certain places that shall remain nameless, I recognize that, even though some of their struggles are my struggles, some people are really going through it. And the sad thing is, more people are unhappy, more people are struggling than we have people who are thriving. The problem is, I think there's a sense of fear that has been instilled in our people, and that is sad. And that's one of the things I'm trying to break, and I'm trying to get our people to not be so transactional, trying to make our people not resort to prostitution, because that is what is happening, where you find both men and women are selling themselves or giving of their votes because they're getting money in return on a short-term basis. So for me, that's prostitution, And so these are the kind of things that I see happening, and I'm hoping that we can change this time around.
Beautiful.
Well,
And
I'm
Nevis,
glad.
you
I'm glad
just
you. I'm glad that she
go
took the
ahead.
time out to define what she meant by prostitution. In that,
Yeah.
it's like you say, really, you're a real journalist, you know. I could attest to um, your grandmother's quest for people to be educated, and
Mhm.
I dare say that there's a part of me that I think if it was not for her, your grandmother, um,
I know that.
I might not have been so motivated with my work. I could remember an incident. I had a nail dig at home. I was home for a couple of days, and it was during test time. I was in primary school. This is primary school I'm talking. And I was home, and that time your grandmom was working for Scantel. So you see how long that was? Scantel, not
Yeah, yeah.
Cable and Wireless. This is Scantel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she came over there. I don't remember what she was doing by the shop, but she was talking to my mom, and I happened to come outside, and she was like, well, how come he not there at school? What to he? So my mom told her, well, he had a nail dig and, whatever. She said, okay, um, let me deal with this. And she got some lime and some salt, and she get a razor, and she get two of the other fellas who work on the truck to hold me down. And she did what she did. Took off the dead skin,
Mm-hmm.
squeeze out whatever was in there, put in the
Mm-hmm.
lime and salt. Next day, I went to school. We
Mm-hmm.
had about maybe 2 or 3 more days in tests. It was the lowest I ever came in my tests, but I felt good because I missed 2 days, and I still actually came ninth. And it was because of
Mm-hmm.
her. Because
Mm-hmm.
and so I've always remembered her and her because she was like, you're not supposed to be home, you're supposed to be in school. So
Cool.
when you talk
Yeah.
about that push in terms of education and the value for education, yes, that was Aunt Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, so,
But
so, so you see, Yahsonn have his own remembrance of your grandmother. So you see, your grandmother is a
Yes.
community
Yes.
person.
Yes.
I never forgot her from then. She was like,
Yes.
even as a matter of fact, the guys who worked with her on that day, their name was Aunt Mike. And wherever I saw them, they were Aunt Mike. I didn't know their name. But when we saw each other, we still remember each other from that event. So whenever
Yeah.
we see one, I was like, Aunt Mike, even
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes. So,
seriously, as
Mm-hmm.
a young person, because this is one of the challenge that I see. Um, Seemingly, there's not a lot of young people who are interested. I'm not talking about even so much on the voting side, but
Mm-hmm.
just in the general understanding of how the country is run, how they don't listen to the budget, they don't listen to parliament, things like that. So they're not necessarily involved in the process. What do you think you can do or will do to seek to find a way to channel that sort of interest in, let's say, the age population between 18 and 35? That key group of people who seemingly are not so much as interested as you would find, because even people in our generation is not that interested either, but
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I use that margin for you to work it. So what do you think you would do, or how would you seek to help to get these people, this group, more interested in what's going
Okay, thanks for that. So I think one of the main issues is the lack of understanding. Even the ministers of government, even the heads of some departments, the regular staff don't quite understand the content of the budget and other financial statements. But you would find a more mature crowd tuning in because they want to know that something happened. So they would pick out bits and pieces here and there. But even how some of the MPs present themselves and deliver their part, I can tell that they themselves don't understand the dynamics of the budget itself. They know what plans they have and what they want to do, but in terms of understanding the financial statements and that kind of thing, that they are not au fait with the contents. And I think that governments, past and present, have failed in dumbing down information. Maybe dumbing is not the word, but breaking down information in a way that the ordinary man or woman can understand. And so one of the things I've always said, because I'm into communication and I'm about making sure that people have the required information, is that every single ministry, and in some cases departments of government, must have a communications component where there is a key person or persons who you would go to get information that the public should know. And let me tell you how I try to do that even now on a small scale. So I recognize that sometimes people would send me messages via social media, maybe WhatsApp mostly, asking certain things like, when is VAT day? What is the cost of flights? Where do you go to get this information? Stuff like that. General questions. I realize over time people used to ask me this, I guess assuming that I would know. Because I worked for the Government Information Department and ZIZ at a point, I was in the know. So I started to use my platform, mostly WhatsApp, to just share the information whether or not I'm asked. And that really took off when we had the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we were under certain restrictions. And you would find that the Prime Minister would give an address and a lot of people don't understand what he's saying. And so I used to take the same speeches and break them down into bullet points with simple language that the ordinary person can understand. And I didn't do it looking for anything. I did it because I recognize that a lot of people wouldn't understand, and I just wanted to help people in that regard. So I think that is a small way to lead to something bigger in terms of what we can do. There is too many things happening on Nevis that people don't know how to access. People don't know which department to go if you need this service. People don't know how to get certain things done. People don't understand what is presented to them in the budget. That's why they only tune in to, for example, the wrap up and to hear the curse words, to hear when people are going back and forth. And so I believe that it's high time that we educate the people more in a language that they can understand and appreciate. And that's something that I'm definitely committed to doing. And these are conversations we've had at the party level among the caretakers in terms of the need to get the information more out there and more accessible. So that is not anything I find that would be so difficult. However, I will say that this may be an oversight by governments past and present, but it can also be a deliberate attempt to keep our people under-informed so that they can ask you the right questions. They can challenge you. And that's something I have a problem with.
Because that's exactly what I was going to come in and say, don't our leaders supposed to know much better that the masses who are listening when they're in the House of Assembly, because yes, even between 18 and 35, even when those things going on, you're in your environment, you're paying attention because you're in your family around, but listening to the budget itself, you don't really understand it unless you're really in tune. You're listening and listening for the costing and all the different things. But then is the leaders is to make sure those who are listening understand the information at the grassroots. You see what I mean?
When
that is the key.
When they say things like recurrent revenue, a lot of people don't know what that means. So it is like like Bankie said, it's so correct. It is for you to break it down and say, okay, by this we mean. And why not? Why not go back to having something similar to a consultation on the economy where you invite people from various departments, various stakeholders basically, to be part of a discussion to help to inform the budget. That way they then will know and they can help in terms of educating people on the contents of the budget because they were part of framing it. Bear in mind too, a lot of these ministers don't actually write their budget speeches. A lot of them, and I don't blame them for getting information from the department heads, but some of them just get the information, copy and paste, and then they present it wholesale. So they themselves don't understand. I can tell from how they present that in some cases, they don't understand. I could tell what you wrote versus what someone else wrote and gave to you.
Yes. Okay. We in an environment we speak about more or less education. Every year we have couple of few hundreds people in both high school graduating, and then the premier will say, well, there's no work for them to do and they have to create work. But that is the job of our leader, to create a growing economy where when people finish school, and it's like we have people living here going just neighbor to see our sister island St. Kitts just to see CFBC. We see our Nevis community, the young ones going down there, but it's a cost at the end of the day. You're away from your family. I would have figured in this time that we should have something like a branch of the CFBC here extended. I even have some. I think we have. Do we have the West University of the West Campus here? We do. I call it the exam them at the office by the education office, something like that. How would that work? But what are your plans for education? That is what we really want to get to. Your plans for education and making it where grants and scholarships are more accessible and not promises.
Wonderful. So I think it is not just about education, but it should be about education and training. And so one of the things that I recognize is we have been putting a lot of emphasis on traditional education, like a 4-year university, and then you get your bachelor's degree, you go on to get your master's degree, but we're not focusing heavily on skills training. And I think that is an opportunity that has been missed that we need to pull back on. Okay. So in terms of education and training, I believe we need to take that mixed approach. Yes, you focus on education, but we must also focus on the training component. One of the reasons why we find that there are limited jobs is because we're not diversifying our economy and we are not putting enough into small business development. What we see happening is big businesses getting a whole heap of concessions to run their businesses. They're already making a lot of money, but they continue to get concessions that the smaller business men and women don't necessarily get, and that's a problem. Because the reality is governments cannot hire everybody. And I need people to understand that there's no way that a government, it doesn't matter how much you support it, can hire everybody. And so we have to find ways of giving people teaching people to fish than to just give them a fish. And that is one of the missed opportunities. So one of the things that I want to ensure is that in the area of education and training is that we get more people trained in skills. And when I talk skills, I'm talking the traditional skills like carpentry, plumbing, electrical wiring, etc. But there are also some more modern ones like cosmetology. So there are a number of skills, sewing, etc. There are a number of skills that are available that I think we need to channel our children into now, and even our young adults, and that way we can diversify the economy. Because imagine, if you are a skilled person, you shouldn't be out of a job. Imagine if we had more skilled persons, that the reality is for Nevis, in the sense that we would have people hiring people. So whereas we are looking to the government to hire 3 people, you empowered 1 person with skills training. They then, when they take off, can hire another one, then another one, then another one. So they help to absorb some of that unemployment that we see right now on Nevis. Additionally, yes, we could continue with the focus on education because not everyone wants to go into skills training. So we continue to have MOUs, which is Memorandum of Understanding with universities in the region, and I'll come closer to home. But allow me to share with you something that I was able to do, and I was not in government. I didn't have any thinking of being in government. When I attended the University of the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas, there was a program where students who graduated from the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College were able to get a significant discount on their tuition at UVI. Notice I said Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, which is the college on St. Kitts. I happen to be from Nevis, where the Nevis Sixth Form College is located, but I didn't attend the Nevis Sixth Form College. I did my sixth form education at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College because of the subject offering at the time. So even though I attended the school, I didn't know about this special offer, but in dialoguing with persons, I met some Kittitians and they told me about it, and I recognized, and then I was able to get signed on to it. I could have said, let me hush my mouth, me and get through. Hey, it's good for me. But I said no,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, I am a division. and I got involved in student government, and that gave me access, direct access to the university president. And I used that power, for want of a better term, to lobby for the Nevis Sixth Form College to get that same treatment. And I can tell you that that currently exists. And I was not in government in Nevis. That's just something I did because I had that platform. I had that direct link with the president of the university at that time. So he was listening to me because we had monthly meetings, and he saw it as something that made sense. I had him come here, meet with Mr. Parry. Parry was the premier at the time, meet with Mr. Parry and other members of the cabinet then, and we were able to get that MOU going. And now people from the Nevis Sixth Form College go to UVI for that same discount that the students of CFPC get. Right? And that was, you could do the research. Yes. I'm not lying at all. Right? Beautiful. So that is the kind of passion that I have, and I was not involved in any kind of elective politics. So those things can continue. Those things are not difficult because universities out there, they want people. So we can continue to do those. But let's go further. Right here at home, I agree with you, Bankie. It is high time that our people who cannot afford to go overseas get the same level of training and education from the comfort of their homes. People who are from Jamaica can go to UE. People who are from Trinidad can go to UE without traveling. People from Barbados can do the same, and even now Antigua. So why can't we do it here on the island of Nevis? You know, back in the early 90s, there was a program where persons resident on Nevis can do studies here with a lecturer in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Hensley Daniel knows a lot about this because he was very instrumental, with a lecturer in Florida. And then coming closer to the time of graduation, they were able to travel overseas, I think for 3 months, get their hands-on training, and then they graduate with bachelor's degrees. And if that was done in the early 90s, in this age of technological advancement, why can't it be done? I think that the problem that we have here on Nevis is that our government, yes, may be struggling financially, but we are inept of ideas. You know, we have gotten comfortable, and the people don't call on them to do much. And so they can just come to us every 5 years, tell us some nice things, and then they don't ever do it, and we won't demand that they do it. But I think it is high time for us to realize that the opportunities that exist for people outside of St. Kitts and Nevis should be realized here in Nevis. And that can happen if we were to expand the Sixth Form College, giving the opportunity for people to benefit, like those in St. Kitts, from a sixth form, a skills training, and the opportunity to do overseas studies right here in the comfort of your island. And how can this be done? Well, the same way we continue to fund the Nevis Sixth Form College, we can slowly but surely extend. Also, we are talking about investors coming to the island, and we want them to invest in this and that. Education is one of the things that we should be pushing. I think we are afraid somehow to mandate where we want the developments to go. You know, there are so many countries that we brag. There are so many countries that we brag that we have understandings with, but we don't do anything about it. Yes. Go ahead, Sammy.
If finish. No, what I was saying is that shouldn't the federal government have an interest when it comes to education and have a branch part with the NIA to have the sixth the CFBC over in Nevis? Shouldn't that relationship, especially when you had Minister of Government over on the other side in St. Kitts for 7 years, and still a part of the government exists? I mean, I find that hard that these things are not happening.
That should have happened because we had members of the NIA as sitting members at the federal level. That should have happened. But the reality is they never promised us that it was going to happen. They didn't tell us they were going to give it to us, but we somehow think that miraculously people who continue to fail us would suddenly find love and joy and interest in us and execute for us. That's not happening. At the end of the day, the reality is we are a federation when it's convenient. I love St. Kitts and Nevis. I want St. Kitts and Nevis to flourish, but the reality is we are a federation when it's convenient. Currently, we have an opposition in St. Kitts led by someone who is from Nevis, and they're not opposing. They're not opposing. It's almost like they're in bed with the government, but I still can't see the rewards of their bromance. I still can't see the rewards of their bromance. Imagine you're not opposing, you're running behind the tail of somebody, so you look like you're in bed with them, but you don't have anything to show for it. So what kind of relationship is that? And so, yes, you may say that the federal government should play a role in it, but I maintain we are a federation when it's convenient.
Well, the reality is, over the years, the Nevis didn't really want to take part in the federal election because they figured once it's, as I say, it's convenient. Once they win enough, the political party win enough seats in some case, they don't really need the Nevis candidates. But recently, they have joined for such a partnership where I don't know how to call this. Is that there's no opposition. So my thing is, I mean, the economy. I had the premier on the show and asked the premier, well, how broke the government is. The premier asked me how broke. So let's say broke, different type of broke. Broke you can pay your civil servant, but then broke you can't finish up nothing, like the hospital and other stuff that there is. And you realize now in the budget, as the premier come down to know, they have we're sharing now the CBI
it's less
money.
significantly less.
Where they get 25% of the amount. I don't know, but when you used to get 60 something, now you're getting 35. Well, these are different type of brokes now, because right now things will be rough, real rough. Because if then you're gonna get that amount,
Bankie,
you say, Yahsonn? Yeah.
Bankie, there are a couple of things in that scenario, and I guess I am interjecting a little bit before Jaedee respond, because I think I could hear where Jaedee is going, and I have some similar thoughts, and I want to get this in before somebody think, well, okay, well, you know, Jaedee is I'm seeking to follow up pattern here. Here is it. Here's what I am thinking. One, we had a fair share agreement that should have been handed down from the World Bank since sometime in March, I think, this year. We have not seen that report. We don't know what that report has said. What we know is constitutionally there was or is supposed to be sharing arrangement between St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of the taxable revenues, and it should be similar in relation to VAT. So those are two, and these arrangements were constitutional. If my understanding is correct, according to that sharing arrangement, I think it was a 76, where we got 33 point something percent or 33%, and the government would have gotten, the federal government would have gotten 76 point whatever out of the rest. Now, if that is that sharing arrangement, and it should have been 33% that we should have been getting, why is the VAT share 25 and not similarly along that same line? That is something that I would really want to question. So it means if that is the case, that we would have gotten something, we would have arranged for, or we would have agreed and designed something that gives us less than what we could have gotten had we seek to align it with what is constitutionally there and seek to go back to me. This is my personal view. Go back to that, because to me, I have a couple of issues where that is concerned, but let's deal with this part first. In terms of these, in terms of the 25% right now, your view in terms of the 25%, and if you think that we should have gotten more, like we're talking about the 33% that we should have gotten, your view on that.
But before Jaedee answer, right? Before you answer, I wanted, the reason why I bring up the if the country is we're really dependent on the CBIs. So What are her plans as a part of the party's plan to diversify the economy? That's the reason why I went when they did the Brooks part, because we're really getting less money and we're really dependent on this money. And you see what I mean? Can you realize we're not really bringing in no investment within the country itself that is really feasible to encourage work? And if you don't have construction going on in any economy, because construction brings other trades, painters, carpenters, decorators, just everything within that part of it. Any country you see have a booming construction economy, tell them it's going to be a healthy economy. And we are not seeing that, right? Nothing. I'm around and you ain't hearing it. So what are the plans for the NRP to really give that change that the people are looking forward for?
Okay, so we have a few questions on the table, so just allow me a chance to just bring a response to each one. One of the things that was mentioned earlier have to do with the revenue sharing with the federal government and whether or not we think that how it is right now is the right way to go. Now, I like to be fair, whether I'm in opposition or in government. I think it's important to be fair and not deceive people. The reality is the government cannot bulldoze the government cannot the cannot bully. But even with that fact, I think we have to recognize and appreciate that the opposition, meaning we're talking at the federal level, is not doing a good enough job in terms of representing us. Because I can recall a few years back that the current leader of the opposition, who happens to also be the premier of Nevis, said that this was the best arrangement that we have seen, referring to his government being in his party, being in office on St. Kitts, where they were members of the CCM, part of the federal government. And he said quite clearly that that was the best arrangement that we had seen in terms of a relationship and revenue sharing, etc., for St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, recently, we are hearing that, we have finally gotten to the stage of a fair share arrangement that we are satisfied with, and it represents a certain percentage. So we have to ask ourselves which of those statements is necessarily true, if any of them is in fact true. So that's the first thing I want to point out. Now, we are also talking about the money being less now. One may argue that percentage, and it's a fact that percentage goes based on the total amount of funds that you would have had. And so if back then you were raising $1,000 and now you're only raising 500, 25% now is obviously less than 25% then. So we understand and we can appreciate that. What I think people may not be realizing is that the government in Nevis knows that it is beyond broke. To answer Bankie's question, it's beyond brokes. There is no good way of saying how broke it is. It is beyond broke. And so it is relying now more than ever on the federal government, which, by the way, has significantly cut its assistance to Nevis, and cut its budget on a whole. The federal government in 2025 went on a chopping spree. Everything they cut, including their support of Nevis. But you're not hearing that from the government. When it's convenient, you hear that, we are struggling on Nevis and we need help. And that's what the new SSZ, which I'll touch on briefly, will give us, etc. But the reality is Nevis is so broke that we are relying now more than ever on the federal government. Also, the current government in Nevis is not stupid. They recognize that elections are coming and they need funds to ensure that they can stay afloat in the event of an election. And we don't just have one, but we have two. We have a federal election and we have a local election, both constitutionally due by 2027. And we are entering 2026. And so those are some of the things that we cannot ignore. I maintain, though, before I get to Bankie's last question, I maintain that because we recognize in St. Kitts and Nevis, particularly in Nevis, that we are so broke and we've lost so much money from the CBI. Remember, we went on that whole CBI program. We are tapping into special sustainability Because if you read the details of the Special Sustainability Act, you would recognize that it is just a remix CBI. And so because we realize the IMF was pressuring us, they were pressuring us significantly that we need to revamp our CBI program because they're going to pull this and pull that, we felt threatened. And so we said, you know what, we had no choice. If we had a choice, we would have kept it how it was. But we recognized we had no choice but to revamp the CBI. And in revamping the CBI program, we realize now that we are gaining far less than we ever gained. Because remember, CBI is what was carrying St. Kitts and Nevis, don't fool yourself. And so because we recognize now that we are gaining far less, we are tapping into Special Sustainability Zone. And in that act, you would recognize that it is a CBI. And when I say that comfortably because I recognize certain key in there that makes me say, but wait, this is CBI. This is CBI because it things like when you enter development, you have to be to provide certain things. You have to be able to contribute to this particular sector. You're talking about healthcare, food security, water security, all of these things that the government really should be doing. These are essential things, but because we don't have the money from the CBI to do it, we are tapping into SSZ. But what is the party planning NRP? That is to diversify the economy. Well, one of the things I mentioned is that we want to boost small businesses. We want to have a thrust in terms of small business development. I maintain that small businesses can go from micro to small to medium size and eventually large businesses. But we have to believe that that is possible. We can't just put the businesses out there and expect them to thrive on their own if we don't create that environment that allows people to have that level of investor confidence. And so that's one of the things we want to do. We want to push small business development to help with job creation. Another thing, and mind you, with small business development, it doesn't have to be the traditional businesses, because we're talking diversification. So we're not just talking about the traditional businesses. Also, with the leader that we currently have, who has specific expertise, I feel that this NRP continues to be the best choice in terms of a balanced ticket. When you look at the level of expertise of each candidate/caretaker. So imagine we have a leader who's currently into environment, protecting the environment, dealing with the blue economy and the green economy and these types of things, sustainable development. She understands climate change, global warming, and these kind of things. I think that that is essential for where we want to take Nevis, because we now have to recognize that we can't tap into the traditional businesses. It's time for us to get some new ones. So I am confident that with that level of expertise, the NRP can go there. Then we look at my colleague, Dr. Bartlett, whose area of expertise has had a lot to do with not only health, although it's animal health, but health in general, and agriculture to some extent. Again, I find that we are poised to really diversify the economy in certain areas. But let's talk tourism. I think we are stuck on one particular type of tourism, the traditional sun, sea, and sand, which may be good. But our party is looking at doing more in tourism in terms of sports tourism. And we don't mean the one-off competitions. We are talking about significant investment in our sporting facilities to ensure that we can attract that level of tourism, right? That's another way of diversifying the economy. Remember now, when you do these things, there will be a ripple effect. Everybody in turn makes money. As Bankie said, construction will be happening, so people will make money. When you have sports tourism, everybody in the tourism sector will make money. You with your little restaurant, you're going to make money because people want the local food. The taxi drivers will make money. The hairdressers will make money. The babysitters will make money. Everybody will make money. So these are some of the areas that we can diversify the economy. Remember, and create jobs. Remember, I spoke earlier as well about the skills training, which I think is very, very important, that we have people who no longer have to be restricted to just Nevis. They are skilled, so they can go away for 3 and 6 months on a contract to do a job at some hotel overseas and come back. Guess where they're going to send their money back home? Guess where they're going to spend their money right back here in Nevis? The reality is that a lot of people emigrate from Nevis and migrate to other countries simply because they don't have that level of confidence in our economy.
You see, I'm glad you touched on the SSZ, because what I've realized from the moment this had break ground is that I compare it to the prison project, because I've realized it's unlimited amount of is just selling passport, and that is when I have the premier on my show and I asked him, is it a CBI project? He said somewhat, and I said, well, it's either or not somewhat, because his excuse is that you have to live in the zone, you got to go through the application fee because the CBI is down and you have to collect some fees. But the CBI have its own rules. Just for having the application fee mean you have to purchase to live inside the zone, you must have a property inside there of a minimum amount. So really, our leaders are willing to go with 50,000 people and this is the only option they come up with, which is going to save and boost the Nevision economy where we become the minority. They wasn't thinking this through. This are the same. Yes.
No, you're right, Bankie. The problem that we are having right now is that we only see as far as today. Maybe tomorrow, but we don't see very far, and that happens when you're in a desperate situation. So for example, when we talk about that mother with quite a few children and she's struggling, a man comes, and we know that, let's be real, we know that this is a situation that happened in many years, and I see it happening now again. So a mother already has 3 children, she's struggling, she doesn't know how to pay for them, but a man comes, and the man taking care of her and her 3 children, he buying whatever they need, etc. And then she feels inclined to give him a child because he came and saved the day, not realizing that is what happened with the 3rd child, the 2nd child, and the 1st child. So she was thinking about the now because she was desperate, right? And I think that is what is happening. We are in a desperate situation, so we are thinking about the now. We are not thinking about the fact that it takes 5, 10 years sometimes even more, to really see meaningful growth. We're not thinking about that. We want instant gratification. What this government didn't give us in 12 years, they're not going to suddenly turn around and give us in another 5 years. And that is what people need to understand. This SSZ Act, as I have read it, based on my interpretation of it, is a CBI remix. We were pressured by the IMF and other agencies to do something of our program. We made a big song and dance about revamping it. We sent home a whole heap of people and hire people again. We make press releases after press releases to say that we've changed the program and we are streamlining it better, etc. But that still did not resonate as well as we wanted it to with some people. So the revenue continues to go down. So this Special Sustainability Act that was put together for us is an attempt to resuscitate the CBI program. And Nevis wants it more than ever. And Nevis is pushing this particular Destiny project because even before we are so familiar with the Special Sustainability Zone Act, we are pushing this Destiny project because we know that it is the saving grace for us at this point in time. People may be saying, but why are you against job creation? I'm not. But if we don't start to be selfish And I'll explain what I mean. If we don't start to be selfish in saving what we have left, there won't be anything left for the future generation. Don't know how we don't see a problem with that. When you go to other places, go to the beaches right there. Their people come first. When you go to Anguilla, which is even right there, their people come first. And I don't promotion. I believe in helping people, but I want, as we say locally, dance before me dance abroad. And so if we are not saving what who we expect is going to save us. So I am not fooled by this whole SSZ Act. I am not saying that anything about it I question, but there is enough that I question. I also want to make it clear that I don't have a problem with development. I don't, that's, as a matter of fact, it's because I want development why I entered elective politics. I don't have a problem with anybody who is attached to Destiny or any other projects that may come or may be proposed. Don't have a problem with them, because if they see an opportunity, they are going to take it. So they, for me, are not the issues. We are the gatekeepers. We are the gatekeepers. They saw the opportunity, so they are lining up at the gate to come in. It is for us to decide whether or not we are going to let them in that gate.
You are the representative for St. Paul's. As we speak about healthcare, we have over 1 million square feet of building just there sitting down. I mean, what are your plans for that? Because we're talking about make sure people have an area dialysis, MRI, nothing happening. And the Premier said another 18 months. Another 18 months. It seems like 18 months is the key, because 18 months for the poultry processing too. So is everything in this finish up in 18 months? I guess 18 months in on the track. I guess everything is 18 months. So healthcare, I mean, how serious are we when it comes to healthcare and finish up a project? It goes back again. Everything goes back to this SSZ. This is a saving grace for Nevis. What are the plans for NRP, either to abandon this project to just refit it for something else? But this don't make no sense.
Okay.
Hold on, Bankie.
So,
hold on, Jaedee. Hold on, Jaedee. Hold on, Bankie. Before you get into answering that, I don't agree about no saving grace for Nevis. I, for some reason, when you say that, it seems as if the SSZ is the saving grace for Nevis, and I think Jaedee said that they're pushing it as a saving grace for us.
Let me say my reason. No, I'm just saying. The reason I say saving grace. This and that say Team Jesus and Team Doramos. Team Jesus is the saving grace. So I'm just saying the saving grace by Team Jesus. So is that me say so? And the people no can do this and that. Go ahead.
From my vantage point, what I am seeing is over the years that we have gotten to the point of independence, so to speak, our leaders are those who we have elected over those years to represent us and to look out for our cause has failed us hugely. And it is as a result of their failure why they would even consider this as our saving grace. Because if this is what is considered to be saving grace, we are not saving ourselves from anything. So it would be the politicians who are trying to save themselves or to maintain themselves in power. It's not necessarily a saving grace for us, because you can't tell me, as a person who would have been landless and who even government officials are still considering as squatters, right? That my saving grace would be you helping or encouraging some of the former colonizers to buy out our lands, which we fought so hard to maintain. So I don't quite necessarily see it from that perspective. The perspective is from independence, we went into tourism. We moved away from the agriculture industry to some extent. and we focus mainly on tourism. Tourism and a shaky industry to some extent. It was not maybe as successful as they expected it to be. They got into offshore banking, which then got blacklisted a bit. Then they went into the CBI, which to some extent is selling out the lands because they put in the option of the real estate and so on. Where you could, but the difference with this project now is that even though you said, JD, that it is CBI, and from speaking with the leader of the Destiny project, that he would have admitted that it is a CBI project to some extent. The difference is a lot of the people who bought would have invested in the CBI then. Some of them don't live here and don't necessarily have any intention of living here. They needed to pass the other visa-free access and so on, and to get access to other territories and so on. However, what we are talking about here now is CBI of people who are going to be living here. Because basically, the Destiny project is proposing is not so much resorts and so on. It's more a place where the people are going to come and live and own condos and own villas and be a part of a community. So, saving grace, selling out our patrimony, putting us in a position where possibly we would be outnumbered. It's not even, you can't even consider it as South Africa, where even though it's a small population of, outsiders who have the money and so on, and manipulating the majority, it's going to be a case where they will be the majority and they will have the money and influence.
Correct.
So, saving grace, I think we need to look at it a bit more holistically.
Okay, so when I use the term saving grace, for me, I'm referring to the government's savior as the selling point for being elected again. It's going to make this current government look as if it has been doing things, because it will present the finances that are necessary to get certain projects either started or completed, right? So when I use the term saving grace in relation to the Destiny project, the SSZ, and the government, that's what I'm referring to. Not saying that it's necessarily a help or a benefit to us, but I'm saying this is what this current administration is looking forward to, so that it can go to the people of Nevis and say, hey, renew our mandate. Give us another opportunity to serve you. So when I use that term, that's what I mean. Now, in terms of the healthcare that Bankie raised, and the Alexandra Hospital project, etc., and healthcare in general, I want to remind, or just make sure I make it clear, that although I have certain views, and Dr. Bartlett and Rohan and Dr. Daniel Hodge has certain views, and the party on a whole has certain views, we have to come together as an administration when we are elected, and I speak it into existence, when we are elected, to talk about what will be in the best interest of Nevis, right? So I want to make it clear that even though I may have certain views, I try not to speak on what the party will do if it is not something that the party has agreed to. So I just want to put that out there. As it relates to the Alexandra Hospital expansion project, though, I think there is no doubt in any of our minds that this project has gotten to the point of cost overrun and quality underrun, where we've been doing this for a number of years. I think 2007, if I'm not mistaken, was the groundbreaking. And we are now in 17, and we are now in 2025, and we are not very close to completion. The reality is something must be done. I can't tell you at this point that an NRP administration is going to continue, condemn, start over. But what I will tell you is that the NRP administration in government will ensure that we have a proper hospital that can serve the people of Nevis with modern facilities. We understand and appreciate that not everything that people want will be done on Nevis. That's the reality. But in an age where dialysis treatment, for example, is almost mandatory, we can't still be sending people to St. Kitts for that. And as I have said in another platform, there are certain things that's near and dear to certain people. This is one that's near and dear to me because I have a very good friend, like a brother, who is receiving dialysis treatment. And when I think that, you have to travel overseas, a few times a week, the effect that it has on your body alone is a lot, and so these are some of the things that we have to be mindful of. It was 2011, some years ago, we already had dialysis units, turnkey dialysis units sitting on the ground in Nevis. That was several years ago. Fast forward to 2025 and people are going to St. Kitts. We continue to see people dying as a result of this disease. There are too many persons on Nevis who are currently receiving renal treatment for renal failure, dialysis treatment, and for us not to take it seriously. So that's one of the things that I think must form part of the expanded Alexandra Hospital, the expanded desire to boost, the desire to boost healthcare on Nevis. Another thing that I think that we are not tapping into is the development of our community nursing, meaning the health centers. Okay, this is what I mean. We have some community centers. Many of them are in need of serious repair, upgrades, that sort of thing. But really and truly, a lot of the things that we go to the hospital for should be able to be done at a health center, at the community nursing level. One of the reasons why people don't go there is because they don't know of all the things that can be done there. That's number one. And it goes back to the whole education that we talked about, making sure that people know what services are available where. So that's one. Number two, we have to make people feel comfortable that the quality of care that is available at these institutions is just as good as what you would get at the hospital. You may be asking, but why is this important? Well, it will then take some of the pain, some of the strain rather, away from the main healthcare facility and put it at the community nursing level. We really need to tap into extending the hours at the health centers, for example, even to 6, maybe even to 8 p.m., so that we can fill that gap. Too many times you go to the hospital and you have to wait for hours. You get fed up and you leave. You don't even remember that you're sick because you're up there waiting for a long time. And it is not that they're behind you not doing anything. It is that they have to prioritize. And so there are certain illnesses that will take precedence. But imagine if your community health center was opened a little bit longer to perhaps 8 o'clock in the evening. How we can tap into that a little bit more. What else does this do? It promotes job creation.
I know in St. Kitts by the health centers, there's a doctor position by the health center in Newtown, and some of them certain times a week, a couple days a week. I'm not sure if on Wednesdays, and I went there on Fridays, at least 3 times a week. I'm not sure if this is something could be added in Nevis also, but as you said, the extended time hours could goes a lot. But everything is about communication. As I said earlier, most of these departments should have a communication department. Agriculture have one to disseminate this kind of information. Health have one, so I'm not sure why a lot of these things is not kind of have but I guess that is health promotion unit. Yes, but not sure how close that ties in with the but that is something that could also, which is a brilliant idea. I mean, I guess the government can hire you as a consultant or whatever it is, an advisor.
So actually, there is a doctor at the health centers specific days, depending on what you want to go there for. The problem is a lot of people don't know because they're not doing a very good job at educating people. Also, what is happening is you go to the health center in town, for example, not where it is now, the traditional health center, and you realize that it looked the same as when I was going primary school. It looked the same. The posters on the wall, maybe one change, but it's the same thing. And so you don't feel that sense of wanting to go there. I remember when I had my daughter, I am in the room, and it's Charleston, so it would be a lot of people. When we have toddlers clinic, I am in the room. I'm glad for the opportunity to talk to the nurse, to tell her what the baby is doing and what should I be expecting, because I like these kind of things. I tell you, I like being a mommy, but I can't talk freely because somebody right there next to me with another nurse, because of the demand in Charlestown, an area that was intended to be a one-room area to one nurse, one patient, they ended up having to double up. They were trying to, maximize on this space, but the reality is somebody's desk was a bed. Somebody's desk was a bed. And, I spoke about stuff like that. I said, we really need to improve on this, because I should be able to talk to you freely as my healthcare provider about what is going on without having to worry about somebody else. Luckily for me, I have an aunt who is a nurse, who I disturb for everything. And Bankie's sister, I disturb for everything. So it's like I had those people that I can tap into whenever something happens, but some people are not so lucky. And so these are the kind of things that we are talking about. We need people to actually know that, listen, these are the services that are provided at the health centers. These are the dates, these are the times. And when you come there, you will be comfortable, because we've upgraded the facilities to make you feel that it's a welcoming environment. I don't play about my health. As I'm getting older, I starting to want to do all kind of things. All the things my parents tell me eat when I was younger and I didn't want to eat, I'm making my child eat now. Because you realize the
Yes,
importance. You
of
realize the
course.
importance of these things. And so those are some of the things I think we can do in healthcare. To go back a little bit, one of the things NRP wanted to do when the previous NRP was in government was to boost health tourism. And I think we missed the opportunity, because it wasn't something at the time that was popular in our region. And I think we need to stop being afraid of being first. I think we need to stop being afraid of thinking that because other people aren't doing it, it can't happen here. We have to be careful. We have to be careful. To me, that's a poor man mindset. That's a slavery mindset. And we need to get away from that. It doesn't mean that because nobody else has ever done it, we can't excel in that area. So one of the things I remember distinctly the NRP back then wanted to do was boost health tourism. And in boosting health tourism, they wanted to make it that people can come here for cosmetology, for specialized surgeries. Those people, not like me, because I good with how I am. If I can't lose the weight to get smaller, ain't happening. But there are some people who are into those kind of things, and that's a service that we were willing to offer. People who got into really bad accidents and they had to have reconstructive surgery. That's one of the things we wanted to offer. But it didn't come to fruition because a new government was elected, and so that was no more, because we don't recognize in Nevis that governments are continuous. So that if a program or a project is on the table and it's good for Nevis, we don't realize that we are supposed to say, this is good for Nevis, let's move forward with it, even though another administration brought it to the table. Again, that kind of small island mindset that we need to get away from. Governments are continuous. You see me? If tomorrow NRP is elected to government and we have people working with this current administration doing a good job, they support whoever they support, but they come up to work every day, they do a good job, you can depend on them, they're professional, what are you troubling the people for? And that's the problem that we have, this limited mindset.
We're going to give Miss Caines a break, and we are getting some of the people a chance to communicate and dialogue with Jaedee, and you can get in some of their comments and stuff like that. You can give them the telephone number we communicate with. It's easier if the overseas can call 1-869-665-8459, and the local line you can call me. You can also call that on the local too, but my WhatsApp ain't working right now, so you can call me locally if you want to talk to me, get any question you want for Jaedee, 662-7196. Yes, and you can get in some of the comments while we wait on any calls to accommodate Jaedee.
On the YouTube platform, we've got Ava Joseph saying good evening all. Special good evening to my niece Jaedee. We have Just G 1980 says the current government in Nevis is not interested in helping Nevisians. Sherry and Richard says good evening. Adele McClendon says good evening everyone. Troy Sadio says peace and blessings to all. Adele says the comparison between how an NRP representative answers questions and dialogues and how your previous guest who kept deflecting and paraphrasing to insert himself. And I guess she's using the comparison. User WT, are you on a door? Good night all. Just G 1980, in 18 months, his election is why he's saying that. Greetings all. Hell no to SSZ or Z. We don't want these libertarians in Nevis. They are causing problems for Honduras right now. Why is the developer even allowed to sell CBI? This is a big problem. And they says exactly Yahsonn. What is going to stop the amount from being more than 15,000 people? Troy Sadio says, I can't wait for my 30 EC monthly. If you all don't want it, you can give it to me. This is an awful joke. Just 1980 says, us Nevisians keep voting against our interests. Seems we like suffering. Just really says, I try. Laugh out loud. Mighty Servant says, here's a thought. If the CBI has sold over 35,000 using a moderate figure, persons, and the SSZ is saying it will bring in 10,000 persons, and they all find common grounds to come Nevis. Modo. Just G, NRP was ahead of its time, and that scared the premier, and he stoked fear in the minds of Nevisians against NRP. Good night, everyone. Dominique Neal says manners and respect. Good evening, all. Ines Phipps, watching from Boston, USA. Sandra Brooks saying too many lies. No transparency. What they asked for. On the Facebook feed, we have Ruby Walters saying good evening. Delicious Nichols Brown saying this government no want Ari to know anything. Jetzel Barton says good night. Olivia David says good night. Sandrine Lewis Daly says good night, everyone. Those are the comments. And for those who wish to call in, if you wish to call in, as Bankie would have mentioned, his international and his WhatsApp is not working, so you can try 1-869-665-8459 or for the local lines, that would be 1-869-662-7196. And if you're looking at us on Facebook or even on YouTube, the numbers are sliding across the bottom of the screen. And so if you didn't hear what I say exactly, just look at the bottom of the screen and you'll see the numbers sliding across. And while I'm here, let's use this time as well to encourage folks to go on over to the YouTube platform, like, subscribe, and click on the that alert. I forget the name of it. The that bell, that make sure that whenever
notification,
subscribe bell, right? So whenever that whenever there's a program, you would be informed. You will notify the notification. That's what I was trying to remember. Notification, and we will be. You'll be definitely informed whenever we are having a program here on Real Entertainment Network. Jaedee, it's quite interesting the way you have been responding to the questions, and I love how you, in a lot of cases, don't just respond to questions, but in a lot of cases you offer the solution.
Suggestion, yes.
Or you propose or some suggestion to deal with whatever the issue is. And I appreciate that. And I love that, because sometimes you find in a lot of cases, you talk to politicians or whether it's on St. Kitts and Nevis or, around, and they may always, especially when they're in opposition, they may always have something to critique, what the problem is, so to speak. but sometimes don't necessarily want to offer up solutions. So having you doing that, even without being asked, to, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Bankie, there are a couple of questions. I guess I'm gonna go into a little bit of the agricultural side.
So Yahsonn, if it's okay, before we shift, I have some persons who sent me some feedback on my phone, and they tie into what we're discussing. So I want to
No problem.
address that.
No problem.
That's okay.
Yes.
So this one in particular speaks a lot about healthcare, and so I am reminded that not only dialysis is a missing component at our facility, but chemotherapy as well. So I am advised that, that's a service that, was once there, but persons have to religiously go to St. Kitts for that level of treatment. And I mean, we keep hearing of cases of cancer. Just Saturday, I went to a funeral because someone died of cancer. Yesterday made a year since someone younger than me passed away as a result of cancer. And so this is becoming far too familiar for us. Back in the day, if you knew someone who had cancer, that was a shock, but not now. So that's one of the things we need to consider as well. Yes, I can understand and appreciate that you can't do everything, but you have to do a needs assessment. You have to look at what the demands are currently and tap into that, because it's a Nevis for all of us. When we are campaigning, we wear the green and we wear the blue, and we're on the political platform talking about who didn't do what and what we will do. But once you see the election is over, government is elected, you are there to serve everybody. You're not just there to serve the people who voted for you. Even though sometimes you might get word with it, the reality is you're there to serve everybody. And that's something that I think that we take for granted, we as the voters, because we don't demand that of the representatives. So that's one of the things that came up, the chemotherapy. Another thing, and I'm glad that this person mentioned it because I've been talking about it during my house visits. Yes, we want to see the community nursing be expanded in terms of the hours at the health centers, but I don't know how many people realize we are in a crisis in terms of the development of community health nursing, because a lot of our nurses, as good as they look, are of retirement age. They don't look that they're of retirement age, but they are. And in some cases, they have retired and they had to come back because the demand is there, but we don't have the nurses to fill that. If I'm not mistaken, we have probably about very few nurses who are not of retirement age in community health. That is those who are working at the health centers. So you may be saying, but what is the difference between a nurse at the health center and a nurse at the hospital? So the basis is the same, but there are certain extra things that you have to do to be a community health nurse. And I think that we are missing the mark because we are only looking as far as our noses in terms of having a deliberate attempt to recruit nurses for community health. We can't just wait until people finish school and see if they want to apply in the field. No, we have to go into the schools now and encourage people to study this field, to go into this field. That is what I'm talking about, ensuring that there is succession planning. So all like my good aunt, as nice as she looks, I mean, my aunt done over the age, and it's about time she go home and look after she grandchild, and maybe we're gonna give her some more to look after. But the reality is they have to stay there because we don't have that many community health nurses. So we need to do a recruitment drive and have a deliberate attempt at it to ensure that we have community health nurses. And I'm not just talking about bringing in people all the time. There are enough young people who, as Bankie mentioned, coming out of school, they don't know where to go because nobody told them what the demand was. So they just pick subjects in school because they say, okay, I think this is what I want to do. But nobody told them where the demand was. I bet if we start telling them where the demand is, people would start to channel their efforts because you want to know that you get a job when you leave school. So that again is one of the things
And they
that
can
we
have
need to consider.
incentives. They can have incentives to encourage ones to get into the healthcare field, sign-on bonuses
Bingo.
and scholarships and all this different stuff like that. I mean, I don't think these are so simple initiatives. I mean, it's I don't know why they don't see these things. I mean, why can't they encourage as much young people as possible? And to, as you say, I mean, you got to have continuity. So you must have to have somebody in place who's going to replace the person who's going to retire. So you can't have people in the healthcare system. And
exactly. Speaking of incentives, one of the things I think should be happening, and I would really like to see happen, to be honest, is we have those type of incentives for areas that we are struggling in. So, back then when we had the housing program at a particular level, people were able to pay for their houses to the corporation. Now it's a thing of the past. One or two people do it, but it's not really practice. It's a thing of the past. And so you have to approach a financial institution and get it on their books. The problem is that some persons are already strapped financially. They may physically have the funds, but when you go before a financial institution, your debt service ratio will be too high, and so you won't qualify, right? I'm thinking people like those we are targeting going into community health nursing, because we know it's a need, we know that this is something we want, that could be an incentive. Hey, we are paying you. So as part of the incentivization program, we are willing to offer you a house through the housing corporation where you pay directly through us. And these are kind of things that we are looking at. And so I'm not just saying that because Bankie mentioned it, but these are real things come out of our house-to-house discussions. For example, when I meet with people and I tell them, listen, we have a problem on Nevis where not enough men are pulling the weight that we want them to pull. And as a result, it makes those who are actually pulling their weight look like they're not doing anything, right? And so you might be saying, oh, you're rewarding people to do what they're supposed to do. I don't see it as that. What I think is, in St. Paul in particular, because I'm speaking of St. Paul now, one of the things I would like to see is a reward program for fathers who continue to show up. You're not paying them to do what they're supposed to do. We're saying that every now and then we partner with some of the business places that you get discounts here and there just because you're doing what we want you to do. And you may be saying, why? Mothers do it all the time. Yeah, but believe it or not, children need their fathers too. And it makes for well-rounded children when we have that level of involvement from both sides. So these are some of the things that I think, areas that we can do, small things to incentivize people, but they will have big impact. Also in St. Paul's, one of the things that I want to do, and I'm committed to doing as the area representative, is something that I've been doing for some time, and that is to help children with the school lunch program, but to go even further and offer a breakfast program at the schools. I think it is high time that we pay a little bit more attention to what our children are consuming. And I'm not just talking about the fact that some parents may be struggling, because that is the reality. But some parents leave for work early and you find that they leave the children to eat what they prepared, but they don't always do it. And so you leave them up to themselves. They eat stuff that are not nutritious. And you find that children are now suffering from non-communicable disease. Children have diabetes and hypertension and these kind of things, which at alarming rates. And so I think we have to be more preventive than reactive. And so that's one of the things I want to see, where we have nutritious meals being served, not just at lunchtime, but also breakfast. That's one of the things I definitely want to see in St. Paul. And then the others can copy. Rohan, I welcome you copying my idea. Hey, as long as it's benefiting the people of Nevis, I'm good with it. So that's another thing that I want to see. The skills training that I mentioned earlier, gentlemen, I think too, to make sure that it is fair across the board, we need to start to say, hey, we could take 2 from St. Paul's this year, 2 from St. John, 2 from St. Thomas, 2 from St. George, 2 from St. James. Next cycle, we can do the same thing. If St. Paul only has 1 this year, and I know St. Paul ain't going to ever only have 1, but if St. Paul only have 1 this year, then we probably top up in another area and then the cycle continues. So it does not appear that only 1 area is benefiting, because that is what is happening right now. People are crying that only the people in Brown Hill are the people, Wall Street, because you see the walls that they have over there when other people can't even get the basic things. So only people in Brown Hill maybe getting things at certain times of the year. Other constituencies are complaining that they're struggling, so we don't want that. We want a more holistic approach where everybody eats, everybody benefits.
Okay, so Jaedee, based on what you were discussing there, I guess it is in terms of nutrition and all that, it kind of rolls into where I was going to head in terms of agriculture. But before we do that, there are a couple more comments came in, so I'm just going to, respond to them. Okay, so many names out, CBI, SSZ, etc. Okay. Steve Mills, says, good night, Miss Caines, Yahsonn and Bankie, blessings to all. Just 1980 says, people stop drink tea. Bush tea. Sandra Brooks says, so many things getting out of hand under this government. Things still not going well. Just G 1980 says, we could have been something similar to the US where military servicemen and veterans get a 10% discount at restaurants and stores. Something similar could be done for the nurses, police, and teachers. So good suggestion, I guess. People are listening.
Very nice, yeah.
People are also weighing in and giving their little input. And sometimes, those little things it means a lot. I remember when I was a teacher and I was a part of the Nevis Teachers Union, that was one of the things that the union sought to push. There was a point where a number of businesses offered a 10% discount to members of the Teachers Union. And so in order for you to benefit from that, you would have had to be a member of the Teachers Union and so on. So, and even though it might have been not a lot, it meant a lot for the teachers, because, teachers generally don't get a very good salary, and so any little incentive is, sometimes very much welcome. And so that was from the Nevis Teachers Union standpoint. Imagine if this was done from a government standpoint where, Right. So I definitely...
Well, it's like this, Yahsonn. It's almost like as a farmer, it's the only industry that is 100% duty-free concession. You're entitled to get, whatever you bring in a hose, and it's one of the industry that you don't require him to have a business license. Constitutionally. So, just like at Four Seasons, a hotel like brand, they pay per attendance, they encourage you to come to work early, and you get an incentives. So it's just to show these things are important when you want to encourage and grow your economy in a sense like that. You just got to put things in place. When they're having the COVID, they're giving out kind of incentives to take the vaccine, right? So if you're going to do things in a different way to set your economy forward, to encourage people for continuity in the nursing sector, in different skill areas, you got to have different way to encourage people. Just I just say, police, I go to TDC, I get a 20% as a farmer. You see what I mean? And other discounts and stuff like that. You see these promotions going on through the Christmas for farmers and all and different stuff. So these are things that encourage is nothing new. You just need to extend it. That's what need to happen. Yes. But go ahead, Yahsonn.
Yes. So how can Nevis leverage its agricultural sector for food security and export growth, particularly in niche products, value-added products, whether it's hemp-based foods or essential oils or teas or jams, or how can Nevis leverage its agricultural sector for food security and export growth?
Okay, so for me, it starts with education again. Everything ties back to education. When we think of agriculture, the average person, we think of just farming, getting your hands dirty, growing a few crops. That's what we are thinking when we think of agriculture. So I think we have not done a good enough job of educating people on it. And I'll tell you why I say that. You recognize that every year when people are doing CXC, they're crying out that the numbers are becoming less and less, to the point where they were considering canceling agriculture science as one of the subjects, because they recognize that people weren't that literate. So I think that we're not doing a very good job at it. Admittedly, I was one of those persons who you only pay attention to it when you realize that we are in a crisis. For example, during the pandemic, when you realize, boy, you really should be growing what you eat. That is when you had that appreciation for the agriculture sector. But because now my daughter is doing agriculture science in school, you find that, you're reading up on the notes and you're getting a better understanding. And sometimes she comes home and she tells me certain things, or you have to help with a project, and you realize, no, boy, I think we are downplaying the importance of agriculture. So the first thing I think is getting that level of education out there. Yes, there's a program. It's a good program, but how do we get people watching the program? If people are not coming to it, we have to go to the people. So that's one of the things that we need to do, boost our education. Also, Bankie mentioned the incentives. I can't speak to all of the incentives because admittedly, I don't know what all of the incentives are in the area of agriculture. But if we were to attract people, just like I mentioned earlier about the nurses, at a younger age, about some of the possibilities that exist in agriculture. And I'm not just talking about being limited to farming or animal rearing, but talking about some of the other careers that can emanate from a degree in agriculture, then I think we would be one step closer to doing that. Because right now we just have people who farm. You have very few persons who are interested in veterinary medicine. You have very few persons, but that's, agriculture and still healthcare. But we also have very few persons who you would hear taking up certain key positions. You would hear of horticulturalists overseas. You would hear of those fancy terms overseas, right? And so if we were to go on a recruitment drive at a younger age, I think as well, we would have more persons tapping into that agriculture field. And it means then we would have less unemployment. We would have less persons who are sitting on the sidelines saying that they have nothing to do, there are no jobs. We would have less of that and more persons who are able to sustain themselves. And instead of coming when I'm at the cashier to beg me for $1 or $5 to buy a drink, they can say, Miss Caines, I remember you had given me $5 a time. Here is 10. What can I buy you? Stuff like that. So those are some of the small things that we can do. Additionally, we cannot neglect the fact that there are partnerships out there that we should be tapping into. In the area of agricultural development, we must recognize that we cannot do it alone right now. And because we cannot do it alone right now, we should be willing to accept the reasonable assistance that may exist within the region to get us where we need to go. So this may mean, a system where some of our employees or interested persons in the field of agriculture are able to go to another country, learn some of their best practices, and then come back and teach the people who are here how to get certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Get these things implemented here on the island of Nevis. So these are some of the things we can do. And it would also help to have a Minister of Agriculture who's actually knowledgeable about things in agriculture. I find that in Nevis, in this current administration, we continue to have misfits in terms of the ministries. So you realize I said earlier, we have a balanced ticket. I don't think I mentioned myself and Rohan. We had only gotten as far as Dr. Bartlett and Dr. Daniel Hodge. But in just the four of us, and we are pending the fifth, just the four of us alone, we find that there isn't so much sort of an overlap. Yeah, there are certain similar areas of expertise, but generally people are good at certain areas where you can easily see which field they would fall under. So like Rohan, sports enthusiast, into sports, into community development. And so you would recognize that, well, hey, if I see Rohan working in sports, that's not so surprising to me, because that is what he eats, breathes, that kind of thing. If you see Jaedee talking about education and the media and IT, you're not surprised, because that is something that she's into. So that's why I talked about having that balanced ticket. So it would help if we have a minister who has some level of knowledge on it, and in cases where they don't, they are not afraid or threatened by the people who work under them to give them the information that we need to get us where we need to get to. Because that is what is happening. We are having a brain drain in government. There are so many people who are knowledgeable on the topics, but I guess our egos don't allow us to hear from them. We feel like because we're the minister, we know it all, and we are the only one whose voice matters. And so you find that people are in there with a whole wealth of information, but they're going to die with it because we don't give them the opportunity to push it or advance it for Nevis. So those are some of the things that we can do. Additionally, Yahsonn, I talked earlier about the blue economy and the green economy. We have to start now, which we should have started already, to train our people in agriculture for what is to come. We are talking about food security, but in those discussions on food security, are we including climate change? Are we including global warming? Are we including sustainable development, or are we just throwing around the term food security? Because
Are
our
we including controlling the monkeys? The monkey program shut down for the last three years. You can't have it. If you leave your farm, you're dead. So are we going to control the monkey? What do you plan for the monkey program? There is none.
Correct.
That's the key.
Correct. That again, that's a very good point. Very good point. And a light moment, where I live, the land is not even. So the back of me is higher. And because it is so high at the back, sometimes you just leave the doors open to let breeze, as old people say, let breeze go to your place, right? I don't really like a lot of modern amenities. I am very simple with certain things. So I like the natural stuff. And so, sometimes I leave the back door open when I'm home so that I can let the breeze come through the house, etc. Well, one morning, I'm there and I'm walking in the area, and I just happen to look in the side of my eye. And I said, well, what happened here? And a monkey comfortably on my back porch. I remember I tell you it's up high. A monkey comfortably on my back porch. That morning, I happened to have the door closed. I was about to open it. And I'm there thinking, imagine if I left the place open while I continued to do my chores. The monkey would have been inside. The monkey would have been inside. And on any given day, I can't walk outside now and not see monkeys. Whereas in times gone, to see a monkey, like, oh my God, look a monkey, because you really saw them, but not now. That's the reality. And then there's a time when you're going to see a whole lot of donkeys, and they just continue to roam the street like nobody business. And that is another thing too. I don't think that this falls under agriculture, but I think we also need to start looking to seriously controlling all these roaming animals, because there are far too many that are allowed to just roam freely. So that's another thing. We're not hearing you, Bankie.
Definitely, Bankie. Yeah, you're muted.
I was saying that the department is responsible for all those roaming animals. There's a program with the donkey program, and there in any stray animal, there's a program where you just get in contact with I know Gatorade used to work. Gator Elliott used to work with the department. He still does, but I'm not sure if anything have changed. But he's one of those persons. When you have animals, sheep, goat, come into your yard, you can hold it and then trap it, and he'll get, and then stuff like that. Then there's supposed to be a pound. But yeah, it still falls under the Department of Agriculture. So there's a lot that really needs to be done. Yes. Yahsonn?
Okay. As we continue, I was gonna ask about your view in terms of what role the government should play in supporting smallholder farmers and agro-energy cooperatives on Nevis. You kind of, in your response, kind of gave a bit of suggestions in that regard. So if you want to add anything else to that before I move on to the other segment or area I would have.
Okay, so just quickly, let me add that to me,
Mhm.
it also goes back to where we started off the program in terms of incentives for small businesses, because I think we continue to have a limited or closed mind approach, sometimes not deliberately, but just because that is what we are accustomed to, in how much we need all the moving parts to work. In other words, we can't just on the 16th of October every year give a nice speech and say it's World Food Day and we want to promote food security, when throughout the year you don't see enough of that happening. Or even if it's happening, people don't see it happening. People only want to buy fruit trees when it's the Agri Expo. People don't know where to start. Some people think that you have to have a big farm. So, these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. So if we have the information, the education, so that people can know what's happening, and we continue to incentivize these small business owners, including people in agriculture, I think that that could only be down to the benefit of all of us. So I just wanted to add that piece in there.
Okay. As we move on, I want to ask, since we're already on agriculture, and now cannabis is a part of the agro industry now, so to speak. What is your position on cannabis legalization or decriminalization, specifically for Nevis, and how could it support local agriculture and wellness industries?
So, as someone who has never smoked, don't have any intentions of smoking, I fully support not just the decriminalization, but even the legalization, right? I'm not judgmental at all, and I've been around enough persons who are into this field, hearing from them. As a matter of fact, I think it was secondary school, if I'm not mistaken. Could be. So I was involved in youth parliament or mock parliament, which was a very good stepping stone, ironically, for now where I want to go. And we actually used to have mock sessions where you have to debate certain modes, just like how it is in parliament, to expose young people. Rohan was involved in it as well. And I was probably on the younger end because, yeah, he's a few years older than I, but it was a very, very good program. And one of the things we had to talk about was I remember, that wasn't youth parliament, but I was involved in youth parliament. It was debate. And the topic I was given had to do with the decriminalization of marijuana. And I have not been in sixth form in a long time. And so you could imagine how long people have been talking about the decriminalization of marijuana. And I think from the outset, it was against us. Why? Because people were not open to hearing about the decriminalization of marijuana back in 2005. And this is true because we are now in 2025 and people are still looking at it like, I think anything or most things can, if regularized, if managed properly, can work well for us. Honestly, we can't just say have a free for all, especially in the first instance. But if we were to manage things properly, I honestly believe that it can only reap to our benefit. Who don't want to consume don't have to consume. I am around enough people who smoke and I never had a spliff in my hand. I am around enough people who drink, and in my 39 years I've never had an alcoholic beverage. And so for me, the idea or the notion, the thought that, it's going to make other people want to, but look, they're doing it now and it's illegal. And we need to start to look at the other benefits. I mean, yes, it's recreational for some persons. It is religious for a whole lot of people, and you can't deny people their religious right. And we also need to look at the medicinal properties that exist. You know how many times I hear people say, "Give the child some weed, man." So these are things, that remedies that people use on a regular basis. But I just think that we push the talk of the criminalization of marijuana when we think an election is coming, and so it sounds like a hot topic because we know a whole heap of people use marijuana. But then you recognize, you put a task force in place, but you don't empower them with the ability to really make informed decisions. And so we don't ever get beyond that stage. And that's just me speaking candidly about it. But for me, I have no objection.
Okay, so there are a couple of other questions along that topic, but I'm looking at the time and I realize that we would have almost exhausted the 2 hours, and there are a couple of other things and areas that we would want to get into, because I haven't even touched on the fair share issue and a couple of other things. But we recently had the budget. What are your thoughts on the budget, and is there anything that stood out to you in the budget that you would want to highlight or address?
So admittedly, I am still reviewing the budget because I don't like to oppose for opposing sake. I like to make sure that what I say is informed. And so I have facts to support what I'm saying. So I am in the process of compiling my thoughts on the budget. I will say, though, I am troubled by the notion that, okay, we are going to not put any new taxes, so it means that it's a saving for us. And the reality is, for some people it may sound good, but the reality is our expense bill continues to go up, which means that our debt continues to rise. And what is troubling for me is how much we are indebted to our local commercial banks. That is a problem for me. Gone are the days when we were just indebted to the bigger agencies like CDB and the World Bank, etc. But now we are grossly indebted to the Bank of Nevis, National Bank, etc. We are using our title to basically rape these banks. And that is something I have a problem with. Culturama, you find that the checks continue to be drawn on accounts at local banks, in some cases where it has to be an overdrawn account, etc. So these are things that we need to stop. And this continues to happen budget after budget. But because we kind of chuck it in the side and we know people won't really be listening, a lot of people miss that. So that's one of the key things that came out.
Part of that is because of what we deem as reckless spending and not necessarily good fiscal prudence to some extent, that we have sort of lost that level of relationship with most of the international lenders. So we are kind of forced to have to work with the local. Is that part of the situation? From your
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. But the reality is, though, that is abuse, because then the local banks feel compelled to honor you because obviously you're the government, and it would look bad that they don't honor your checks, honor your business, when they in turn have to rely on you for certain things. So, to me, that's abuse. But it also means that
looking bad is one thing, but sometimes I think that we need to have more opportunities and more forums to discuss these things and lay out these things more so that the average person could understand. Because, we're saying it now, and I kind of had to prompt it so that, we can have it a little bit more clear on the table. I think we need to do a bit more of that. As we continue, I spoke about the budget, but I think probably you would have a similar response in terms of the audit report as well, in terms of you still going through it, or you would have probably gone through that already.
I'm still looking at the budget in entirety now. One of the things, though, I'm not going to touch the audit issue right now, but one of the things that I wanted to mention as well with the budget is that we continue to see expenses that should have been exhausted in previous budgets roll over. And so you would hear, let's use the hospital, you would hear every year, year after year, that an amount is budgeted for the hospital. But then at the end of the year, you still don't see the end product. Bankie mentioned another 18 months. Trust me, that ain't happening. But mention another 18 months as a proposed time given by the current Minister of Finance. And so that is one of the things we need to consider, that we continue to budget for things that we've already budgeted for in previous budgets, also things that we've already received funding for, significant amount of funding from other agencies, like our allied agencies. And so we find that we continue to have cost overrun on a number of projects. And that is something that stood out in just my preliminary examination of this budget. I don't know if you saw that as well, but that is one.
So I guess based on what you would have highlighted, can we safely say, especially seeing that we are almost on the edge of time here, that we can look forward to maybe welcoming you back to have a discussion in terms of the budget after you would have reviewed it,
Sure.
and possibly also some feedback in relation to the auditor's report, like some comparison and so on? Because, okay, like I am looking at this really too from a lot in more of the educational standpoint, because like where I started,
Mhm.
and I said that a lot of young people are not necessarily engaged in these kind of issues, and seeing that you are more from a younger than us, me and Bankie, you might be able still to encourage and tap into. Yeah, we are the elders now. We have gotten to this stage where the youths are calling us. No, so I mean, I have to accept it. So like I was saying, that age range between say 18, 35. You just realize you said your age, so you're in the 30s still. So you might be in a position where you could impact and influence them even much more than we can. So these opportunities would be great for us to do things like that. So I'm looking forward to you being able to come back after, and we could probably have that, maybe those two main areas that we discuss when we discuss again, apart from whatever other questions we may have. Okay,
Yes,
Bankie, I don't want to say anything else for Jaedee, but
well, I just want to touch back on small businesses and the incentives. And the custom was in St. Kitts and one radio station, and what I was saying is that when small business people traveling and they walk with a suitcase, don't take them away and don't have to set an appointment. I mean, what you're talking about? I mean, you're traveling, you can't, and if you're selling, I mean, what nonsense is this? And you're telling me to go on a plane to buy some stuff, whether you have a small business or not, or you bring back for your home. And if you assume that person is selling, they're going to confiscate the bag and they have to make a booking to courier or something like that. This to make no sense. Small business, again, who is the driving force behind the economy, you ain't getting a tax break, and all these big businesses getting $100 million concession. Small businesses should be able to get a duty-free vehicle and all this different stuff the same way, because they and have access to grants and small loans. Go ahead, Jaedee.
I'm not saying to circumvent the system that people don't pay any taxes on the goods that they buy overseas, but that whole practice was troubling to me. When I heard the clip, admittedly, I didn't hear the entire thing, but what I heard was enough for me to say this is crazy, because I could have ordered, let them be shipped here to get the broker to handle it if I wanted to take that route. The main reason why people travel, small business owners travel to get their goods to come back. Even they're selling them, but the reason why they do that is because of time. They want to get the stuff now. They want to get it over with, and two, because they want to be able to pick out exactly what they want. They may not want it in a lump, in a wholesale amount, like when you're ordering online, that kind of thing. So they might choose this particular route. So I think we erred in the practice. Instead of saying we are going to confiscate, why not say we're going to put somebody there that deals specifically with these? So instead of going in the regular line, as long as you have stuff to declare, items to declare, there's a specific line that's catered to you. so that
Yes.
you lessen the amount of time that the person who, like me, maybe just went for a weekend to grab a few things would spend in the line. So that, I think, is where we erred in terms of our procedure. We are saying on one hand it is to speed up the process, but for who? Small businesses would be
Yes.
losing because they're losing time.
Yes.
And especially if you live on
Yes.
Nevis, to schedule an appointment to go get, I mean, it just doesn't seem very small business friendly to me.
Yes. Nice. Yes, and that's
Yes.
also. I just wanted to touch on that part.
No, and I think it was very important for you to interject that as well, because sometimes, Bankie, there's not much forums where you hear some of these things aired and put on the table and so forth. And so it's good when we do have these opportunities to have engagement with, whether it's JD or any other member in the society and the community and so on. We usually are here by ourselves having these discussions and engagements and so on. And so it's good always to have another view and another opinion and hear it also from another person. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a politician or somebody of a specific political party. It just so happened that JD is a member of a political party as well. But and JD is accustomed to debating and so on, and open to debates and discussions and so on. So we want to have, that's the kind of level that we want to have, the platform that we share. That's why we are the way we are. We're very open. We ask the questions that need to be asked, and we give people the opportunity to be free to express themselves, as long as you're not disrespecting anybody and
Correct.
putting the platform at liability and so on. So that's what we really seek to do. JD,
You're doing a good
2
job.
hours would have gone. Yeah, thank you very much. 2 hours would have, gone through very quickly. I think we would have touched on a number of various topics. I mean, based on the conversation and the flow here, it seems we could even just go on another 2 hours and still, have another involved discussion. I'm sure those who are listening as well would have enjoyed the engagement and the discussion and would look forward to having you back on the platform. We want to say thanks to all of you who would have joined in and all of you who would have, made your comments on the walls. We didn't have any calls tonight, so to speak, but the folks who were on the wall, I'm still seeing a couple of comments here. So after Brantley signed the agreement, does he then take it to Parliament this month or next year? Although I believe that he has already signed it months ago. Some of these things, we are left to speculate a lot of things, and this is part of the challenge that we're having with this issue. And I didn't even get to ask you about your view on the Destiny project, and if you were for it, against it, and what would you do to address it?
I actually mentioned earlier, just real quickly, that I don't have an issue with the persons responsible for Destiny. They saw an opportunity, or they see an opportunity,
Yes.
and so they are seeking to capitalize on that opportunity. We are the problem.
Yes.
We are the ones who have the right to say, yes, we are the ones who have the right to say, yes, we're welcoming you, and no, we don't want to welcome you. And when I read through the act, as I have done, haven't seen the Destiny proposal, but I've read the Special Sustainability Zone Act, and it leaves too many questions unanswered for me, a lot of things that I am not in favor of, and so I just can't see myself comfortably saying that I'm in favor of it. So I am not against it. And the reason why you would find this happening is because you did not equip us with the information to begin with. So you make us speculate, you make us having to ask all these questions, and I don't like people doing me that. You take away my right to choose. You take away my right to have an opinion on the matter, and now you get vexed because I oppose what you're saying, but then you didn't give me a chance to choose. Maybe I might have seen it from a different standpoint and said, okay, maybe you can add in this, add in that, take away this. We don't want all these people. Let it just be a regular project going through planning. Who knows? But you took away my right, so you're going to have to deal with the consequences, and that is pushback from me and other people.
Yes, definitely. And I guess that's what we're experiencing right now.
Mhm.
JD, like because as you responded there, the comment that Mr. Jensen made that, well, you don't want to have to go through the next year dealing with this, and then a couple of days after, well, not a couple of days, I think it's the day after, the premier would have had his press conference, and he said, well, he wants to deal with this before the year ends. Do you think that this is a done deal, apart from all of the pushback from all of the, not just the opposition in terms of the NRP, but we would have had pushback from QCs, from Evangelical Association, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, all of these different people who would have been pushing back, Why Astafan, among others. What are your thoughts with this rush?
Honestly, I have mixed feelings. There are times when I feel strongly that it's a done deal, and there are times when I question it, because you see, in the act itself, Section 4 said that it gave the terms and conditions under which the act can move forward, right? This is the Special Sustainability Zone Act, not talking about Destiny in particular. But one of the things that it said is that it can just move forward without certain things being done, right? It says no development agreement shall be entered into without the prior approval of the Nevis Island administration. It said the Prime Minister must consult with the Nevis Island administration before entering into development agreements. It says should the NIA approve, the NIA shall also be party to any such development agreements. And then the list goes on. It talks about the conditions precedent to the development agreements. And so because of those things that I've read, saying, you have to have already presented an economic analysis by a reputable firm, all of these things and more, which, we don't have time to get into. It makes me say, man, these people can't be so serious to have had this thing a done deal already, because they don't have all of these things in place. It is not possible that they could have everything in place when we have not been informed, but the way how they are moving, the way how they speak in absolutes. They're speaking as if this is happening tomorrow.
Yes.
When that happens,
Yes.
it makes me feel like it's a done deal. So admittedly, I have mixed feelings on that one.
Yahsonn,
Well,
one of the things I wanted to mention is that earlier you have some viewers was mentioning 15,000 people, but let me say this. Mr. Jensen openly said it will be 10,000 families. So 10,000 families, and all year round, you will have over 10,000 people, residents living there. Each HOA is a residential area going through the CBI passport. So it's an unlimited amount. It's not 10,000 people. It's not 15,000 people. It can be 100,000 people. This is a reality we need to get into. It can be 50,000 people. 60 is family. If a family of one, 30,000. If a family of two, do the math. That's just the reality. This has to do with maids and all this different stuff. It's worse than the prison project. So when the premier is saying the CBI is down and all kind of something, well, they sneak in this one with unlimited amount. So this is the way you go. But Jaedee, I mean, really appreciate you. I mean, definitely get you back to continue the conversation. But Yahsonn and Jaedee and her wrap up. Anything before she do her wrap up?
Yeah, man. I just want to thank Jaedee for accepting our invitation and coming on board, and for being as frank and as open as she is known to be. I really respect her for that, her down to earth way of dealing with things, and her non-biased way too, I must say. She's the kind of person that, if it's something good, she can say it's good. And if it's something that she could critique, and as I highlighted before, she doesn't just critique, but she would also offer up, a possible solution or a way of maybe addressing it. It might not be the way that you may want, but at least she's showing that, hey, I see the problem and I'm offering a solution. And I commend you for that, Jade. I do look forward to having you back. especially after you would have gone through the budget and the auditor's report, so that we can not just, for the critique, but also to help to edify, like a lot of the younger people who might not necessarily be in this, but might just be interested in hearing, a JD and these two Rastaman here reasoning, you know what I mean? And what is considered at this point non-biased and non-politically aligned platform, where we just things, as you say, two citizens who are journalists and just deal with some of the issues that's happening in our society. And that is exactly what it is. So people, I want to say thank all of you who would have participated. A couple of people came in late. Jetty Taylor said he came in late, and he said, well, it seemed like we didn't promote JD, but we did. We did have flyer posted in, a couple of days before, so Jetty Taylor, but he said he's a JD fan, so he's biased, Anyway, we had Renee N. Wilkinson says, a late but a reach. Good night, best friend. Over on the YouTube, we have the last few comments. Real Entertainment says, road to 1,000 subscribers. Please hit the like button and help us more than you can imagine. Subscribe and hit the notification button. Just G1980 says, so right there, we might have 4 times the amount of each family. If each family has 4 members, that could be 40,000 people. That looks like Vilena David says, great job, JD. Just G1980 says, well done, JD. You'll be in government soon. All right. And so, like we said, the feedback positive. We really want to thank you, JD, and we want to thank all of our listeners and all of our regular Real Entertainment Network fans. Please continue to share. The more the merrier. We welcome all shades and, form of people here on the platform. Go to the YouTube, subscribe, click the notification bell. So the next program tomorrow, we would be in with another edition of Medicine for the People with Dr. Charles McWilliam, of Jade Health Clinic from Nevis, and they function also in a clinic in Florida and Miami. We'll have another interesting edition of Medicine for the People. On Friday, we have another exclusive edition. It should be everything agriculture, but we're going to have...
the topics. The topics. We're going to shift the topics. We're going to double. We're going to have a double whammy of the topics this week.
But we're going to have an exclusive edition of the topics where we're going to be having as guests Azad Gums and the CEO of the housing company that should have done the 2400
East Coast Development. East Coast Housing Development. Brian Singh will be our guest, along with the Consul Azad Gums for Friday.
Right. So that should be something for you to look forward to, because at this point, from what we understand, it is in the court at this point, where the government said one thing and seemingly the developers were sitting by silent, but now they have opted not to just talk, but talk via the courthouse. And so, coming on Friday, we should have the guests with us. And so we look forward to you, JD, and the others, continue to listen to our programming, and, not just when you're on, but, on a regular basis. I know you said you do listen sometimes, but we want to continue to encourage you to listen and share. And, I want to say good night to all of the Real Entertainment Network team, all who's working behind the scenes and so on to make things happen. Without you guys, nothing is possible. So thank you again, everybody. See you guys tomorrow for another edition. Thank you, JD. Look forward to seeing you soon again.
JD did the wrap up? JD did the wrap up?
No, if I can just get 1 minute to just
sorry, my bad.
you guys thank you again.
No. You have to let the queen do her wrap up, Jade. Wait, let the queen do her wrap up.
I want to thank you guys so much for having me on the platform. And
Yes.
I also want to thank persons generally for the support that I've received to date. You know, offering up yourself is not easy, but you accepting someone to be your representative, willing to listen to someone who says, hey, I think I can do it, that's not easy either. So I want to thank persons who have given me a chance and have offered lots of support to date. And I want you to continue to give that support, give your feedback, positive, negative, whatever it is, as long as it is constructive. I welcome that. And I just want to appeal to our people and remind that we can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. And so if we continue to elect the government and we know that they are not performing, we're not going to get a different result. You can't do the same thing over and over with nothing changing and expect that you'll get a different result. So that's something I want to remind you. Additionally, I recognize that a lot of people a little bit younger than me only know of one administration. They only know of the current administration because the administration has been in for so long. So they didn't get the opportunity to get a taste of another administration. So they kind of stick to what they know. And I get that. I hear you, I understand you. But I want you to ask yourself, are you comfortable with what that one administration that you know is doing? Do you think we have the potential to go further? If your first answer is no, you're not comfortable, then I want you to give me a chance. If your second answer is yes, that you think that we have the potential to go further, I want you to give me a chance. And not just me. When I say me, I mean other members of the team that I am affiliated with. And quite frankly, if we don't deliver, I know for sure I won't come back and ask you for another chance, you know, because I would be too ashamed to. So give us a chance, let us prove ourselves. And if we don't execute, then you don't have to bring us back. But we definitely can't continue like this in Nevis. And I think that we have a perfect opportunity to make that change. So thanks again to you guys, and continue to spread the word. I want people to listen regardless of who is on, because it's important to not just hear what I say, but hear what my opponent says. And then you can, as we say locally, pick sense out of nonsense. Thank you so much.
Greatly appreciate it, JD, and thank you for coming on the topics and choosing Real Entertainment Network. Thank you very, very much. Looking forward in reason we're doing the new upcoming year. I'll reach out to you again and we continue the conversation. Continue doing the great job and keep up the good works. Hopefully we have something happen there and decide to have Allen Steel building there when everything is sorted out. That then that whole building that got some steel there, don't know right with that. Yep. So you got your hand full.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Yes, so we
guys.
continue the conversation. Yahsonn. Yeah, you take care.
Yes.
Yahsonn.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. So, people, it was another wonderful edition of the Topics, and we look forward to having you tomorrow with another edition of Medicine for the People. That starts at 7 p.m. And then on Friday, remember to look forward to Azad Gums and Brian Singh for a very interesting exclusive edition of the Topics on a Friday evening. So, people, until then, enough love, guidance, and protection.
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically.
Beat the summer heat. Come and get your carambola, star fruit, make very nice drink. Come pick them yourself. All the trees them full of vitamin C, antioxidant, build up your immune system. Mine's the Last Stop. A whole shopping bag only $10. Half a shopping bag you pay $5. If you get $2, you must get some. Come get your carambola. Don't want to go to wait. Let's go, people.
Wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna lead a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. With the shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a. Lately I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be happy conversation with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else choose you instead. I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else chose you